Morning, good afternoon, everyone. In this presentation, we will go through the research done inside the AI Workforce Consortium regarding how AI and agentic AI is transforming ICT roles. And in the second part, we will discuss how we can create a picture on how to prepare our students for this new emerging future. And we will conclude with some consideration on activity and assessment. As I mentioned, a lot of the data of the first part I will just mention, and the details will be can be found on the website, the microsite for the AI Workforce Consortium, and in particular in the 160 pages of the second report that we have published this year. Just a very quick mention of what is the consortium. It's a consortium made of 10 big companies. It was created by Cisco and joined by all these other leaders in the sector with the mission to prepare today and tomorrow's workforce with actionable insight and scalable framework for the transformation opportunity of AI in the ICT jobs. So it's really something that we consider very important to equip current workers and future workers with data and point of view to be prepared. And as you know, we have also in NetAcad, we have published a specific report tackling specifically the 10 jobs, the 9 jobs plus one that we are working on that are the typical networking academy job, like the network and IT automation engineer, the Python developer, the data analyst, and the network administrator, and so on. And in this work that was published in June, we used a predictive model. So we analyzed how these jobs are organized in terms of tasks and which skills are supporting these tasks. And looking at the state of the art of AI technology, we have made an assessment on which skills will become more important, will increase in relevance, which one will decrease in relevance, and which one will be remain pretty much stable in terms of relevance. So this is another resource I encourage you, if you haven't seen it, to check it, because it could be interesting also for the conversation of today. But in particularly today, I'm going to share the most recent paper. This is the work of this year. And the difference of this report compared to last year is that this time we have looked at the market data. So we haven't used a predictive model, but we have really assessed what the job market is telling us regarding the demand of AI skills in different jobs. We analyzed 50 jobs, 40 of which are ICT, technical jobs, and 10 are specialized support roles that have been identified by the member of the consortium as a strategic for AI transformation. And we have done this looking at G7 countries, and the data are from July 2024 to June 2025, and compared to the previous 12 months when we have to analyze growth. So very briefly, what you will find in the report, before we get to the key insight, I want to show some of the data, the raw data you may find in the report. For the different job family, you will find what are the most in-demand skills that for this job family, and which one instead are the fast emerging skills. So the one who changed the most from the previous 12 months compared to the last 12 months. So the one that are most relevant today, and the rising star, the one that are rising fast. Also, as I mentioned, we analyzed the data for different country. So for each country, you also have an infographic with the most in-demand job, the fast-growing jobs, and the different region that are creating the largest demand for these jobs per country. So this will be will be relevant, if, in particular, if you are in one of these G7 countries. Another very important feature, it's the skill stories. These are stories written to put in first-person narration how jobs are transforming. And you have transformation of jobs due to AI, so AI, how AI is changing the activities, or people, story about people transition from one job to another to capture the opportunity of AI. These are not a kind of real story, but are a realistic story created using the data that came from the analysis. So it's a more live version to present the data and to make it more memorable. But probably what could be interesting is also some analysis on the different skills. In particular, for example, if we look only at AI skills, you will find how the AI skills have changed from 2023, 2025. So that's very interesting that even though AI interest, let's say, has become a strong, extremely strong in the last 3 years, we already have seen an evolution on the demand of these skills, moving from the traditional model building to more like the last wave of transformation that is now on the agentic AI. And, other feature, just another two I want to highlight before getting to the insight. There is a full glossary of the most in-demand skills of 2025. So you can find the description and the related skills listed. And the last one, probably the one I like most, is the possibility to interact with all this data that I mentioned using a chatbot. So this makes life much easier, because instead of going through a very long report, we may, for example, connect to this link that you will find in the home page of the report of the consortium, and click on Get Inside with AI, and you will land on a Google Notebook LM. And here you can start typing, for example, what is an agent? And this will use the data, only the data from the report, so the resources that have been published by the consortium, to respond to this specific question. And of course, you can query the report also in your own language. So you will ask and receive response. And here we have all the definition, and all the responses that are presented are anchored to the documents that have been published. And so we have the multi-system agent, coding agent, red team agent. And now I can say, what shall I teach a beginner relative to agents? Let's say networking, network engineer. Let's say network engineer relative to agent. Let's see. I'm improvising. Let's see what is the response, but the response will be constructed from the data available. And this is just as a stimulus on to kind of share the different way this can be, these data sources can be used. And I encourage you to explore this data and get this as an inspiration for your consideration. Okay, it starts to say agentic AI concept for network infrastructure, self-configuring network, intent-based networking, etc., etc. It gives me some interesting insight. Okay, so this was really the first part. It was more like a flyover, and just to give you a teaser of what is inside the report, and different way you can consume it. But let's get to the key insight. So what has emerged from the research of this year? So the first insight is that if we look at the most in-demand job, 7 out of 10 of the fast-growing ICT position are AI jobs. So the growth of demand is really coming from AI jobs or jobs that are connected to the building of AI infrastructure and AI applications. So this is really relevant. Is in some senses not surprising, but is confirmed by the data, and this is a trend that has been accelerating in the last year. But more important is that if we look at the skills and not at the job, and we analyze, we have analyzed the 50 jobs. Of these 50 jobs, 78% require AI skills. So what we have been calling the AI integration. So these jobs are starting to show the need of AI skills in the job post. And to get a little bit more on the second level of details, I would like to kind of show some graphic. In this one, we will be looking at the demand of ICT skills, general information and communication technology skills, how has changed in the last 6 years. Because a lot of things have happened in these last 6 years, the pandemic, the post-pandemic, the great resignation, kind of economic, the inflation. So a lot of important phenomenon happened together with AI. So the signals are a little bit mixed, and we need to kind of decouple that. So in this graph, we will see how the relative demand of ICT skills and AI skills have shaped up in the last 6 years, being normalized to 100 on the 1st of January of 2019. So if we look at the beginning, starting from 100, the blue is the job post that require ICT skills. We see that is kind of fluctuating around 100, while the red is the percentage of these job posts that also require AI skills, and is also kind of fluctuating around the baseline. But then something happened, and is COVID. The COVID pandemic creates a dip in demand of ICT skills, but in reality, in demand of every job, right? There was kind of a collapse in job demand. But then after 1 year almost, there was the vaccine. And the news of the availability of the vaccine and the campaign of vaccination rapidly created a demand, a new demand in the job market. And there was an incredible job market from 2021, 2022, rising very fast. And together, the needs of AI skills was raising. But you remember, there were other phenomena, the Great Resignation, and then the Federal Reserve started to raise the cost of money to cope with the inflation. And this immediately creates a decline in demand of job, a big declining, compensating the big raise that happened just before. So we have had this kind of mountain happening just before ChatGPT. And then ChatGPT came out at the end of the 2022, and this started to create a new, different phenomenon. From now on, we have seen the demand of ICT skills getting back, normalizing after this hype around the pandemic, but an increasing demand of ICT, AI skills in ICT jobs. And so that's the phenomenon we are observing now. This kind of incredible hot market for who has AI skills, both as AI jobs or as non-AI jobs that require AI skills. To look at it a little bit better, we can see, for example, how in particularly the open source movement started to create an increasing demand, specifically Llama 3, that was the first model, providing a kind of frontier model level of intelligence. And then last year, around this time, the release of the first reasoners, the O1 model, and then a few months later, the DeepSeek, that really showed that we are not hitting a wall, right? We can go above and beyond LLM traditional kind of level of intelligence, but we can have model think longer and reason and use tool. And with this mixture of technology, reasoning capability, capability to use tool, that's where we start to have the agents, the possibility to build autonomous software systems that can get a goal, interact with the environment, observe the reaction of the environment, and complete the task, right? Adapt until they complete the task and respond with the output. So that's really what we have seen in terms of how the different waves of technology have impacted the dynamics of the job market and the skills demand. And so how we use this data? We decided to create some threshold. So we took the job post published in several marketplaces, and we looked if there were inside these job posts reference to AI skills, LLM, generative AI, or traditional AI, all the possible type of skills, a subset of skills connected to the AI. If less than 1 out of 10 job posts contain AI skills, we consider that still immaterial. So if less than 10%, we take, for example, 1,000 of job posts, and we see that less than a very small number, less than 10%, are the one who require AI skills, we consider that still immaterial, right? It's too small. If it's something between 10% and 25%, it means that it is starting to emerge, right? Employers are in agreement that people need those skills, right? So we call that initial integration. If of this pool of job posts, we see that more than a quarter and less than half of them require AI skills, that for me is an indication that it's a significant integration of AI skills. Of course, if it's more than 50% and less than 70%, we can say is established, right? This is the integration of AI skills is established there. And if it's more than 70%, very probably this is an AI job, right? Because it's so relevant AI skills that it's a specific AI job. And so if we look at these threshold, we see that the average penetration for all the jobs in the ICT sector is 16%. But then if we look at specific job role, we will see different level of integration. Of course, an AI ML engineer, it's a core AI job. A data analyst start to show an initial integration. What does it mean? That employers are starting to see, oh, when we hire for a data analyst, we need to hire with people that have experience, have AI literacy, they know how to use AI tools, they know how to use responsible, they know how to prompt, etc., etc. So here is, based on that, we make the conclusion that 78%, they show more than 10% AI skill integration of the job analyzed. So another important things, we looked at not only the demand of skills, but looking at the job profile, or what people write on their public profile. What is the gap from demand and offer, right? And we can see that there are some skills that have reached a very severe kind of skill gap. So there is a lot of demand and not so much offering on that side. So these are good opportunity. And as you can see, these are not only AI skills, but the majority of the skills are AI skills. By the way, I also took I wanted to check how we did it last year on the predictive model. And so I looked at the prediction of the transformation impact versus the what is happening, right? And this will unfold in the next 2-3 years, right? This transformation will be unfolding, but we see already a very strong correlation, 85% correlation, where the prediction was moderate, we have initial. When a prediction was low, we still have immaterial. So it seems to be very consistent. A couple of kind of outlier in a sense of difference. The automation engineer, the prediction was a high impact. In reality, it's almost at after initial. It's still initial, but was, I think, that was on the threshold to become significant. And the ethical hacker is interesting. That is still immaterial. And so it means that still the employer are not necessarily expressing this demand, but the reality is telling us a different story. What I mean is, last week, Anthropic published a full report, very interesting report, of how they stopped a completely AI orchestrated cyber espionage campaign using a cloud to provide attack where the hacker was only doing 10% of the work and was a full orchestrated campaign of attack. So it means that if he's able to do attack, he's also able to do, could be used as an analyst, as a defender. That's also one of the conclusion of the paper, that the demonstration of the capability. Unfortunately, they were able to kind of circumvent the protection of cloud, splitting the task with different agents. They use a very interesting way to circumvent the safeguard of cloud, but there is evidence from the news that the importance of AI skills in cybersecurity, in spite of still not expressing the demand everywhere. And by the way, I also looked at specific region. For example, if we look at, of course, in Silicon Valley, the percentage goes to 26%. So it's more than significant for the cybersecurity roles in specific region. So as always, the innovation has a diffusion phenomenon happening in very fast in specific region and then expand smoothly. And so that's was probably also what we are observing now. Okay, so let's now switch to the second part. And the second part, I want to provide a point of view on how transform this data on mental model, right? How AI is getting integrated in this role. And I will use also an example I already used in other IPD week. Is the first example is as a tool, or even better, as a user interface, right? We evolved from a CLI to GUI to API, and then to natural language interface, right? Because the GUI makes easier to use it, is more user-friendly. The API helps us having a kind of a programmatic approach to tools, to systems. Natural language interface is the best of both worlds because it's natural, but you can also use it as a programmatic approach, right? The prompt engineering is essentially programming, let's say, your intent, expressing your intent using natural language. But the interesting thing is that from the interface, right, AI used as a kind of front end is moving to the business logic, right? Is moving down in the software stack to implement the reasoning, especially with the reasoning model and tool use. And that's what I was mentioning, create the opportunity of agentic technologies. So now how we are gonna live with the agents, right? And this is also a slide I used before. If we look back, we were to get things done. What was our kind of schematized context? this is me. I always had peers, colleagues, or that I can ask help. I can, work together. I have a manager, a director who I have to align, right? The business intent, what I'm supposed to do, right? What we are trying to achieve all together. And I have software tools, software application, software internet, right? I use this tool to access data or to get things done. But already now I have a new entity. I have the agent, the assistant, I will say initially, right? So something that can help me get more information. It is a substitute in some sense of an expert colleague. Of course, I need to be aware of the limitation and the risk, but people use it this way, right? And soon I'm starting having the agent talking to other agents, right? So we will have the kind of agentic, let's say, workforce collaborating with me to solve the problem. So I will now have this other entity to work with. And as you know, for example, in terms of a pure assistant, almost every product now have a chatbot assistant that can help me uh, get, supporting the execution of the task. For example, this is the firewall assistant. I can use it to express in natural language a specific need. I want to create a block for Facebook on a specific network. I can give the name of the rule, and the system will interpret my intent and ask question if it needs clarification, and then create the rule inside ask me for confirmation if I want to create, and then I will kind of complete the task. This is nice, but I think even more interesting is the analysis. How many times we have policy that we have created long ago and they have stratified, right? And we don't want to touch it because we don't know what's going to happen, right? Because we don't want to break anything. What if the AI can help me saying what is the opportunity to optimize some of these policies, right? And to provide a test and then deploy the optimized rule for me. So this will create, of course, a lot of agility for me in doing, getting things done, right, with this help. So I'm kind of leveraging the expertise, right, of the AI reasoning model and the data, all the documentation and knowledge base that have been provided, so that it's not hallucinating solution, but is anchoring the solution based on the knowledge base, the specific proprietary knowledge base to execute. So for this, as you know, all the different category of tools, we have these AI assistants that have different skills for different product, but it's the same concept applied for different situation. But now, as I was mentioning, we are transitioning, right, from a pure assistant to more an agentic workflow. And what I mean by that, let's go back on the new context that I was mentioning, right? That we are now I'm starting to have not only my peers and my manager, but also I start to have this agent, right, that I can work with. And one example could be the Cisco AI Canvas. Cisco, I like very much this example because it shows the power of distributed cognition in the sense that I can use the best capability of AI with the best capability of human collaboration and the power of visualization. So for just a very couple of notes of what is AI Canvas is visualization systems that generates a visualization widget based on conversation with the assistant. So the assistant that is on this side can, based on, for example, a ticket that I can recall from the system, he understands which data could be interesting to pull to troubleshoot this ticket, creates this wizard, also can propose some hypotheses of troubleshooting and some remediation. And I can invite collaborators because it's a system that is cross-domain, so it can span different systems and different domains. So I may have people from security, people from network operation, people from the application domain that I want to bring together to collaborate and solve this problem. So instead, all of us, getting in a room for discussing what is happening, then going back, finding the data, and coming back, trying to solve, we have all this collaborative experience to solve together, troubleshoot what is happening on the network. And so this is start to be an example, right, of what is kind of emerging. But then the question may come is, okay, I understand AI, traditional AI, then large language model that then became chatbot, and then they start to become multimodal, and then started to reason and use tools so that I have agents. But what's next, right? What could be the future? And of course, for this, I have to ask you which pills you want. No, what I mean is for this, it's a speculative, right? It's very hard to kind of predict the future. But one way to predict the future is to look at what the people who are building the future have as a vision, right? What they are kind of thinking, and what they want to go. So one way to have this kind of situational understanding, awareness, right? I think I like to use these three numbers: 70 billion, 700 million, 7,000 seconds. Three numbers. Actually, these numbers are now too low. They've become already bigger. This is 1 month ago slide. 70 billion is the amount of investment that one hyperscaler like Google, Microsoft, AWS, and so on, only one, are doing this year, 2025, $70 billion investment in infrastructure, in data center for AI. 700 million are the weekly active user of ChatGPT. It seems that are already around 1 billion. We are reaching already 1 billion, 800 million for sure. Some rumors say that we are already starting there. If you sum up all the other chatbot like Gemini, Grok, and whatever, you may already think that is 1 billion people using AI every day. 3 years ago, it was a niche. AI was a niche in some sense, right? 77,000 seconds. It's almost 2 hours. What is this? This is a very important metric. Is the length of a task that an AI agent today can do with 50% of accuracy. So it's not a great accuracy, but it's important. What is important is not the length, is how these numbers are changing. So the numbers of weekly active user is doubling every 7 months. And the length an agent can do is doubling every 7 months. It means that more and more complex tasks will be handled by agents, right? To the point that in a few years, we can have agent working for days, right? 1 day, maybe 2 days, and so on task. And that creates completely change the type of things that an agent can do. If it can think and work and fix, right, and iterate so long in consistent way. Another way, and so those are some data, right, that can give us some point and direction, right, in some sense. This is where we are, and this is what is the direction. By the way, I mentioned that this is one hyperscaler. If we put all the hyperscaler together, it's more than 1 billion invest every day. Almost 600 billion invested this year and increasing for the next year. Then what is the roadmap to AGI, for example, that OpenAI is thinking? They state that they want to start with chatbot, so it's a natural conversation. It was text, becomes multimodal, becomes real time, and who knows, maybe it will become a brain-computer interface. This is not from OpenAI, but others have, like even Elon Musk, are thinking about that we want to have high bandwidth to communicate with AI. Then the second step was the reasoner. Think longer, right? Applying that concept of system two thinking, right? Reasoning before telling me the response. Use tool, so capacity to solve problem. We have done that. The next step is agents. So giving to the reasoner agentic capability, so the capacity to plan and execute, and as I said, respond to the environment and be with a different level of autonomy. And here we have seen this year a proliferation of protocols and standardization to accelerate this development. But what is next is the inventors. Up to now, all these systems, in some sense, solve problems that have seen similar problem, right? They kind of repeat pattern that they have discovered from the data or they have discovered from reinforcement learning. But the idea is that we can go out of distribution, right? And we have seen that, like in the AlphaGo computer doing the move 37, that was completely unpredictable, completely out of, the Go player didn't understand that move. They thought, even the programmer thought that there was a bug, that was something wrong. Instead, 7 moves later, it shows that it was a genius move and changed the way Go player play Go. They learn, a new way to play Go. And given that Go was, played for 1,000 years, it's interesting that no one came up with that invention before. So that's another direction. AI system that can do research and come up with new discovery in science, for example. And then organization, having multi-agent system collaborate together and produce value, right? Like an organization. In some sense, organizations are already super intelligent, right? If they work well, they leverage the different talent together and they are able to do things that individual cannot do. And Elon Musk, there is this initiative that I think it was called Macro Heart, as a mucking up Microsoft, Macro Heart, and his idea of creating a software company that is totally AI based and is a totally AI organization. I don't know. I mean, we will see if we'll be able to do it. So those are kind of the 5 dimensions. The 3 we have, or we can already touch it. The other 2 we will see probably in a few years. And so if we put these things together, we may look at adoption of AI from a different lens. One lens is that we have seen up to now, right, is use AI. The main theme is, AI is there, let's use it to do things in a faster, cheaper, better way, right? Create documents, create code, create, do the same things I was doing before, but with this accelerator. And so here the skills, the really important skills are how I can master the use of AI for content, data analysis, code, right? I just use AI. But there is so much we can do using AI, because once we all use AI, we will have all the same advantage. The key important thing is how I can use AI to innovate, how I can use AI to differentiate, to do something that is different from all the others, right? So how can I use AI to grow if I'm a company? And this is where I have to build, I have to merge, the capability of agents with my own data and with my own strategy, right? And so the building, I call this build with AI. So putting together, the capabilities with my own specific use case, my own data, my own secret sauce. And this can be seen from software point of view, but also hardware, right? My own inference system, edge system, or data center, et cetera, et cetera. But then eventually, this system will be built, and very important will be the trust, right? Can I trust this system? Of course, I need to do all things together, right? It's not that I wait that I build and then I ask if I can trust. I have, but it will become then once built, that will become the focus. Can I trust? How can I manage the risk? How can what is the governance, right? What is the ethical use, right? And how can you, the focus on the strategy will become more and more important. So these three ways of AI also give us a lens to understand the different type of skills that are required at different stage. Another way to create a mental picture could be taking an analogy from other sector. And this can give us some insight about also some nuanced things. And the example is the self-driving car. So self-driving car, we know that there are frameworks that describe the different level of self-driving car. So goes from zero, no automation, so the old car without any electronic system, only steering wheel, braking system, that's it. Then we start to have some electronics, cruise control, and so on. Then we can start to have some partial automation, for example, anti-collision system and things like that, and so on. And then we get to some capability to interact with the environment and perform specific tasks, maybe driving on the highway, up to the promise of a full automation where I don't need even to have the steering wheel because the car will be a robo taxi and can bring me where I need to go without any need. Now, very interesting that self-driving car is not a new concept. This is me, a young me in 2012, having the opportunity to test the Google car. And I thought, oh, this is here, right? It's going to be a couple of years and we will have all self-driving car. And for how many years Elon Musk have said, this is the year we will have full self-driving Tesla. And we still don't, as far as I know, we still don't have it. But this is me this summer in San Francisco and driving the Waymo, that is kind of the company behind that is commercializing, right? The robo taxi of the Google self-driving car. So it took significant, more than 10 years, maybe 12, 13 years, right? Before, and still is only in some cities, is only in some part of the cities. And why? Because in reality, as far as I understand, they are autonomous, but there is always also a supervisor, is a kind of a NOC, like a network operation, a fleet operating center, where there are people that can help resolve specific case, right? If the car has to backdrive or there is a specific unexpected situation, they can remote control or hint or nudge the self-driving car to do what it's supposed to do. So yeah, it is autonomous, but it's still not totally autonomous. There is still not only human supervision, but sometimes human intervention. And this is a real general case because we are using machine learning. Machine learning requires data, and we have a lot of data for the most common case. But probably the critical situation are the kind of niche case, right? And we don't have a lot of niche case data. That's where we need that human collaboration with AI in a sense, right? It's not just supervision, it's really in some sense collaboration to solve for specific problem. And why I found these analogies interesting, because for example, if we go for networking, there is a similar model in 6 levels of autonomous network for internet service providers. This is the white paper from Cisco, and it's based on TM Forum, telecommunication forum framework. And it's very similar, right? It goes from zero, completely not automated way to run networks, to start to use scripts and then controllers and so on, up to the idea of a full intent-based, completely autonomous network as a kind of North Star for internet service provider. But very probably, we will face the same type of situation where we will have more and more bulk of work done autonomously with human in the loop, but we will still be there for tackling that 1%, 5% of cases that are very important, very critical, and are out of the capability of being automated. So in a sense, another way, another analogy, it's, and I used this before, is that we used to, when we think about a task, let me say, when we think about something to do, we focus on the task, in doing the task, right? We usually put, if we look qualitative, effort versus time, right? We first define what we want to do, then we do it, then we check if it's correct, right? We put a lot of effort in doing the things, right? We define it's just as quick as possible and discriminate as quick as possible. But now, because we can do with AI, with agents, the focus is moving from the task to the goal. So instead of spending a lot of time in doing the things, we should spend more time in define what the agent have to do. And we have to spend a lot of time in verifying and discriminate if the work has been done right or wrong. And for example, we can even define and then have execution in parallel of different things. Like the chatbot, the most state-of-the-art chatbot, when you use the kind of think harder, grok heavy, I don't remember what are, the most expensive. What they do is essentially they spin up different task, researcher task or thinker task, and then they have a kind of an orchestration and summarization to come up to even a better response. So this kind of paradigm are also kind of influence how things get done. So how can we summarize, right, and conclude? I think that what is happening to the skills, the competencies for us is that we still need the future, right? The future of our students, right? They still need to be strongly anchored on the domain. They need to understand networking. They need to understand cyber. In particular, the big ideas, the first principle, right? What sometimes people call the physics of the domain, right? Those things, those ideas that do not change if you change vendor, if you change country, are really the key ideas. But then they need to add these AI skills because everyone will be working with AI agents. Many will build AI agents. So we need to teach them how to be agent manager or agent delegators, to delegate to agent, or customizer, right? But also organizations are becoming flatter and flatter. So how can we equip students and future workers with the skills to show up to the leadership as experience, right? To prove that they can trust them and giving them the tools to run the network. And of course, teams will become more and more powerful. So a small team will be able to produce a lot of results, right? So the importance of communication, influence, and capacity to earn trust, it's important because team will be working cross-functionally, right? People will be working much more with the leadership, with other function. The idea of the developer that only has as a reference his peer programmer and engineering manager, but is in his cubicle, it's gone, right? The developer is becoming a product manager, has to, can use the AI assisted coding to build products. And so it's an expansion, right? With this Empower tool, we have we need to expand the capability of our students on several dimensions. And so to conclude, I want to highlight another work from Stanford, where similar to the automation, they have identified different level of human agent collaboration for different tasks. They have 5 levels instead of 6 because yeah, essentially they don't have the full, yeah, they just mapped on 5 level, but they have the similar structure, right? From augmentation story for some task to the automation story for other task. And I think this schema is interesting because one of the problem is, okay, how we can use AI to teach and how we should kind of think about assessment, because now the correlation of the work product with the capability, it's broken, right? If you see something, an essay, you cannot tell, I mean, it's difficult to understand how much was produced by AI and how much was produced by the student. And so for this, I found it interesting, this framework and that has been published about a differentiate assessment. So the idea is that we should be in the spectrum and use all the color of assessment, from a pure, you have to do this assignment without AI, to you have to do this assignment using AI in a way that is non-trivial. You have to invent how to use AI to solve this problem. And I found this very interesting, right? And this is kind of the thinking, use AI as forbidden, AI only for planning, AI as a peer, as collaboration, full use of AI. You have to steer AI to get things done, right? Up to the point that you kind of have to break new ground, right? Use AI in an innovative way, do kind of research. How may I use AI to solve that? And if you map these, for example, for a CCNA task, you may come up with interesting ideas of different way to use AI. And in the paper, there is the prompt for the user, right? For the students, right? To make it very clear what is a fair use, what is what is not cheating, what is the expected use of AI. I find it very practical because I think we need to have students embrace AI, learn AI, and use it in studying, very intentional, very conscious, so that understand the limitation. They don't, in a way that they don't become cognitive lazy, but they use that to amplify cognition. And that's it. I think the recommendation, kind of the summary of the recommendation is we should integrate AI skills because the market is asking, and we can do it integrating AI more and more in teaching. We need to inspire and challenge our students to think even more critically and collaborate and communicate, because it was important, but now is becoming super critical because of the new context where they will be working on. We need to increment the connection with the work environment, right? Internship, apprenticeship, making very close, right, to avoid disconnects, and increase the amount of work done in terms of projects so that they can show a portfolio of what they've built, also using AI, but in general, so that prove the level of experience that they have developed during the course. And with that, I'll conclude. Thank you very much for your attention. And Eugene, I'll give the floor to you, back to you.
Thank you so much, Giuseppe. I will go ahead and open the Slido poll for everyone to provide their feedback to the session. Please take a moment to rate the session, rate the presentation and the content, and also let us know about what possible topics you would like to see as part of the IPD week in the future. I will also go ahead and switch to the host slides in order for those people who are watching this as a recording could also access the Slido. So if you are watching this as a recording or for some reason you're not able to complete the Slido in WebEx, feel free to go to slido.com, enter this digital code, and put your feedback in there. And this feedback form on Slido will be kept open until December 15th. So before that date, please take a look at the session, watch the recording. All right, so there have been a lot of thank you messages at the end of the presentation, Giuseppe, which actually makes it a bit difficult for me to navigate in terms of any questions. But actually, I didn't see any questions during the presentation, right? So everything was very clear, but also a lot of accolades, and just that. So I think we are safe to conclude the session right now. Again, thank you so much, Giuseppe, for your presentation. But I will give you one small chance to also advertise your another session in the IPD week. Would you go ahead with that?
Of course, of course. Next week, we're going to talk about quantum. That's another very important emerging technology. And there is a lot of noise and hype, but it's very important to get quantum literacy. So that's the appointment for 1 week from now.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Of course, thank you so much, everyone, for joining the session.
Thank you so much, Eugene, Kristen, and everyone for attending. See you next week.